I was looking into as well, discussing with kind of my friends of the hadiths, right? And then some people were mentioning that some of the hadiths are more kind of authenticated and credible than some of the others.
Okay.
And I personally have no knowledge of any of this. So I was just kind of curious to get like an inside kind of, look into which are they all authentic? Are they all, or are some more authentic than others? And just kind of the viewpoint of that. Mhm.
Yeah, sure. So a hadith is what is narrated from the Prophet, authentically narrated from the Prophet, from his actions, his sayings, things he approved of, or his description. Like whether it is his physical description or his character, his manners, what he did, etc. Because he's the example for mankind. So it's important for us to know, of course, the mannerisms, the behaviors that he did, so we can imitate them and do the same things when it comes to mannerisms and these specific things. So that is what hadith is. So that hadith essentially is composed of two parts. The text, i.e. what the Prophet said, what he did, what he approved of, the event, what took place. We call that matn. And then we have the other part, which we call sanad, which is the chain of transmission. Who transmitted this information? Who told us this event or this thing that the Prophet did? Who said that? So we have something called a chain of narration. It will be has to be someone who met the Prophet, saw him, did what he did. And then this chain of transmission, you need to have someone who met the person who met the Prophet, then someone who met him, etc., until it reaches who gave us the event. Now, this is the case with every single narration we take from the Prophet. Even if that narration was, do this only. These two words. For these two words, we need a chain of narration of reliable individuals. That's it. Now, there is an authentic hadith, authentic narration, and a weak or a fabricated. So the weakest form of narrations is fabricated. Someone who completely fabricated something about the Prophet are reliable, we completely reject that. Then you have weak.
Yeah.
So you have a narration, for instance, and you have a chain of people transmitting it. But one person in the chain, he didn't have a good memory. How do we know? People in his community, they test him. And we have information about his reliability from them. Every single person in the chain. Now, that person has a weak memory. So we say that's a weak narration because we cannot rely on someone with a weak memory. Someone narrated something from someone he couldn't have met. Let's say someone who lived to 150 years before him. He couldn't have met him. So we say that this is called a chain. It has a disconnection there. It's not a connected chain. So that's a weak narration. We don't accept that. So it's a whole science. And you use that science to decipher narrations, which you will call weak, and reject based on these evidences that we're saying. One person in the chain lied or was a liar. We don't accept that narration. It doesn't matter. Even if the rest of the people are honest, one person is a liar, the whole narration is rejected. We don't accept it. So that's how we view the narration. And there's a whole science and tens of thousands of books written. Tens of thousands of books about the men in the chain, where they lived, what their community said about them, how good with their memory. They became weaker when they were older. They were stronger when everything about them is there. And these narrations, existence of all of this information is in the books, essentially. And the books of the hadith itself, meaning the reports of the Prophet. Like Bukhari, for example, what the Prophet said, what he did, Muslim, and all of these different books. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, and it kind of gives me a concept to look at them. And yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense that they're passed down orally, and then that person is also kind of like tested to make sure that they know what they're talking about.
So it's written and orally as well. So we even have written narrations of hadith very early, 100, 200 years after the Prophet. We have. So we have Anas ibn Malik, his Muwatta, his book, we have it. And he was in the 2nd century. In the first 200 years, you have Bukhari's as well. Bukhari's writing, we have Muslims. We have very early narrations, not only oral, but yes, we also mainly rely on the oral. Because we have all of the information about the oral narrators written and attested to as well.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
In human history, that goes to this extent when it comes to history, to reliability of information. No religion, no civilization, nothing. Nobody. Only Muslims went to that extent to preserve their tradition and make sure that whatever is passed down is reliable information. Because we believe Prophet Muhammad is the last messenger. And after him, until the day of judgment, there's no other messengers. So the message needs to be preserved. Because people like you and myself, we need to know what the Creator wants from us or requires from us, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I said Anas ibn Malik. I mean Malik ibn Anas, actually. Sorry, that's one is a companion and one is a authored generation, but it's okay. Yes.
Oh, okay.